As soon as I graduated from university, the prince of the Beijing circle was forced to marry me. 2 years after marriage. Except for fulfilling our conjugal obligations at night, we seldom met. It was not until the news came that he was seen entering and leaving hotels with a popular female star. When coming out of the Civil Affairs Bureau, he was still indifferent and didn't say a word to me. Later, I took up a part-time job delivering food. He cornered me. Lizzie, damn it. How long are you going to be so stubborn? I'm not. Okay. Then I'll give in. Hello. Sir. Your takeout has arrived. I've put it on the table at the door for you. Before I could finish speaking, the door in front of me opened. The man who opened the door was wearing loose home clothes. He had broad shoulders, a narrow waist, and was full of sexual tension. His hands were wet, and he was holding a towel in one hand. 1 year after divorce, I never thought that I would meet Nathan in such a way. I lowered my head for fear that he would recognize me. Is the takeout here? A sweet and clear female voice came from the villa. Looking along the sound, a familiar beautiful figure came towards the door. Handsome men and beautiful women are indeed a good match. Well, I ordered your favorite Westlake vinegar fish. The man's gentle voice rang out. I hurriedly handed him the takeout in my hand. I am from Hanghouse City and I only love the sweet and sour cuisine. For 2 years after marriage, Nathan specially invited a chef from there to be responsible for my diet. At that time, I thought he loved me very much. Later, I found out that Vivian is also from Hanghouse City. That is also her habit. It turns out that I have always been just a substitute. Thank you. I like it very much. We'll go back to Beijing some other day and pick a few more chefs from Hanghouse City for Mom. She should also like it very much. Nathan responded with a sound of, My hand paused. It turns out that they have been married in this year. Almost fleeing out of the villa area, I was wearing a sun protection mask on my face. He should not have recognized me. When I wanted to find the key to drive, I found that the key was lost. I carefully recalled. It seemed that I was in a hurry just now and accidentally handed the key and takeout to him. After several hesitations, I still went back. When I was standing at the door and was about to raise my hand to knock on the door opened just in time. I deliberately changed my tone. Sir, Key? Before I could finish speaking, Nathan handed me the key in his hand. I didn't dare to look up. I reached out to take it, said thank you, and turned to leave. Wait. Nathan suddenly called me. My body froze on the spot. To Brother Chen. Mom called. It seems that Grandpa's condition has worsened. Answer it. Vivian was holding the phone and handed it to him. I escaped without hesitation. Vivian is a popular female star. After 2 hours, she was photographed by paparazzi boarding a plane back to Beijing. The news directly rushed to the top of the hot search list. It's hard for me not to know. Because there are several loyal fans who are obsessed with Vivian's beauty in the dormitory where I share. Handsome men and beautiful women are so well matched. I'm really crazy about them. Another roommate chimed in. I think so too. I hope they get married on the spot. Another roommate. Passerby. Don't be crazy about them first. It is said that President Ni has been married once. The hand holding the water cup trembled. What? So exciting. It's a marriage of families. It is said that President Ni doesn't like his marriage partner. Getting married is just to deal with his grandpa. They got divorced a year ago. A divorced man. Then he seems a bit unworthy of my sister Yang. Alas. But isn't it normal for men to have 3 wives and for concubines? He was forced to get married and doesn't like that woman. And I heard that the woman's family went bankrupt and she cheated on her ex-boyfriend. President Ni can be regarded as getting out of the sea of suffering. I didn't listen to the nasty words later. I picked up the key to my electric bike and went out of the dormitory. 3 at 10:30 in the evening. Sir, do you need a designated driver? Little beauty. Why are you still out doing designated driving so late? It's so hard. Why don't you follow me? Then you won't need to be so hard. After saying that, a greasy middle-aged man came forward and was about to pull me. I didn't want to cause trouble. I pressed down the brim of my hat and just wanted to leave quickly. Why are you in such a hurry to leave? Let brother send you. No need, sir. But the other party didn't want to let me go so easily. Fortunately, a man in business attire came out of the hotel and stopped his actions. Only then did the greasy man leave trembling lie. The man called me, Miss. It just so happens that my VIP needs to find a designated driver. Do you want to take this order? After waiting for so long without an order, I immediately agreed. But when I came in front of the boss the other party mentioned, my body froze on the spot directly. Is it too late to regret now? The man saw my concern. Miss, do you have any urgent matter? Nathan exchanged a few polite words with his several clients, and then walked towards me with two friends. Shouldn't he have returned to Beijing with Vivian? Why is he still in Hang House? I pressed down on the brim of my hat. Fortunately, Nathan got into the car, sat in the back seat, and closed his eyes to rest. It seemed that he really didn't recognize me. I breathed a sigh of relief. Along the way, his two friends were discussing the project content they had talked about today. Somehow, they suddenly started talking about Nathan's marriage. One of his friends said, Brother Chen, I just returned from abroad and haven't had a chance to take a look at my sister-in-law. Why did you suddenly get divorced? This is too sudden. The hand I was holding the steering wheel tightened. Nathan didn't open his eyes. He just gave a faint, Another one of his friends said, It's good to be divorced. It's just an arranged marriage. I just don't know how Lizzie is doing now. I heard that her father owes a lot of debts. Your Ni family will inevitably have to help her pay it off. Nathan suddenly opened his eyes and gave him a not-so-friendly look. He trembled and closed his mouth. Another friend who returned from studying abroad quickly took over the conversation. Brother Chen, looking at your expression, you can't have developed feelings for her, right? After an unknown amount of time, Nathan slightly lifted the corner of his mouth with an indescribable meaning. Not likely. I unconsciously tightened my grip on the steering wheel. I said so. It's just an arranged marriage. How can there be any feelings? Could Lizzie really have gone back to find her ex-boyfriend again? Looking at that scumbag of hers. She was still able to date him for a year. It's really hard on her. Really? She really went back to find her ex-boyfriend? As soon as these words came out, it aroused their curiosity again. I looked straight ahead, feeling so choked up that I couldn't say a word. I increased the speed of the car and just wanted to send them back quickly. When driving into the villa area, a wild cat suddenly darted out on the road. I hurriedly braked, and the car jolted. What's going on? You're so careless when driving. I deliberately lowered my tone. Sorry. I still remember. A year ago. The news that Nathan and Vivian walked out of the hotel together made it to the hot search. In the photo, she was wearing a red off-the-shoulder dress. As passionate and flamboyant as always. And Nathan beside her had a soft gaze. This was a kind of doting that he had never shown me in the 2 years we had been together. Vivian's fans were going crazy and spreading their photos everywhere. The two got into the Ni family's car and drove away from the hotel. We hadn't seen each other for several months. Hearing about him again was like this. I just found it a bit ironic. That night, I thought he wouldn't come back. So I confidently occupied the entire large bed in the master bedroom. Late at night, a pair of strong arms woke me up. Did I wake you up? The man gently moved me aside to make room for himself. I didn't know when he had finished washing up. There was a faint floral scent of body wash on him. The warm light of the nightlight shone on his back muscles and neck, like being coated with a layer of faint golden light. The picture was filled with a sense of strength and beauty. His entire outline also became more handsome in the warm light. When I was staring a bit blankly, the man suddenly bent down and approached me. He tentatively kissed me on the lips. When the man saw that I didn't resist, He deepened the kiss. His palm moved from top to bottom. Afterwards, he carried me into the bathroom. I'll do it myself. Nathan didn't force me and turned and left the bathroom. When I came out, Nathan also came out of another bathroom after taking a shower. Go to sleep. It's very late. Then he pulled me into his arms. Suddenly, I thought of the news I saw today. The pain suppressed in my heart could no longer be held back. Let's get a divorce. His movements paused as he looked at me. Reason? I was silent for a while. Nathan was resolute. You don't need to worry about the Lin family's affairs. Since you married into the Ni family, the Lin family's affairs are the Ni family's affairs. When I heard him say this, I was very touched. But the Lin family was involved in too many things. I don't know how much it will take to fill this big hole. I don't want to drag him down. The changes in my family also made my situation in the Ni family a bit difficult. Although Grandpa Ni doted on me a lot, I said in words that he couldn't refuse. A 2-year marriage period has ended. As we agreed, once the marriage period is over, we won't interfere with each other. Sure enough, after he heard my words, he looked at me in silence for a long time. At this time, my ex-boyfriend called. Lizzie, I was wrong. I shouldn't have done this. Will you forgive me? The man on the other side seemed very eager to know what I would say. But I didn't do as he wished. I calmly replied, well, let's find a time to talk. Obviously, when he heard my answer, anger gradually appeared on his face. Are you divorcing me because of him? I have my own principles. I can't forgive a man who has hurt me. But in order to get divorced as I wished, I had to say this. Yes. We got back together. Isn't it just right since my engagement with you is over? The next day, after we came out of the Civil Affairs Bureau, the man didn't give me a single expression and said coldly, Lizzie, you will regret today's decision in the future. Then his car drove away. I and Nathan went in opposite directions, south and north, and haven't seen each other. In the year I graduated from university, Grandpa Ni came to me. He said that he had arranged a baby marriage for us with my grandpa a long time ago. Grandpa was seriously ill at that time. When he saw his old friend, he burst into tears and asked me to fulfill the engagement. That day was the first time I saw Nathan. His facial features were outstanding. Whether in terms of external conditions or temperament, he was one of the best. Grandpa. But I already have a boyfriend. I don't want an arranged marriage. I have a boyfriend who I have been in a relationship with for more than a year. His family background is a bit ordinary, and he is quite good looking. However, my family doesn't seem to be satisfied with him. For this reason, I had a very unpleasant argument with my family. As soon as my father heard that it was the Ni family who was in an alliance by marriage, he couldn't stop grinning and would talk about it to everyone he met. When he heard me say this at that time, he was so angry that he slapped me. What's so good about that? I advise you to break up with him as soon as possible. Dad is doing this for your own good. That day was the first time my father hit me. I was so angry that I ran out of the house. In a fit of anger, I hid outside and didn't go home for several days. Later, I don't know where Nathan found out about the hotel I was staying at. Nathan is 5 years older than me. His every move shows maturity. Miss Lin, I know you don't want to marry me. I won't force you. But there are some things that I know you should know. Then, somehow, he sent me several photos of my boyfriend in a hotel. The women around him were never the same. I couldn't believe it. The man who kept saying he wanted to marry me was actually spending the money I gave him on other women behind my back. Perhaps what you don't know is that the hotel you are staying in now is owned by our Ni family. Coincidentally, when I just came over, I also saw your boyfriend. Do you want to watch the show? I don't know why I followed him there as if by some strange impulse. When I stood at the door of the hotel suite, I called him on the spot. Howard, are you working overtime at the company now? The person on the other end seemed a bit guilty. But his words were still impeccable. Yes. Baby. What's wrong? Do you miss me? Then I'll tidy up and go to your place immediately. From the other end of the phone, one could still hear the rustling sound of getting dressed. I tried my best to suppress my explosive emotions. Okay. See you later. After a few minutes, a man and a woman really came out of the suite in front of me. The man among them was exactly my boyfriend. I slapped him several times on the spot. Still not satisfied, I directly kicked him and sent him flying. 5 on the day of breaking up, I went to a bar. I was completely drunk and pointed at the well-dressed man in front of me. Nathan, you have achieved your goal. Well, now that I have broken up, are you happy? Why should I be happy? Nathan looked at me and asked, seeming to find it somewhat amusing. No. I should thank you. You let me see the true face of that scumbag. Right. Nathan? You said I was so good to him. When he said he had no money, I transferred it to him without hesitation. When he said the commute time to work was too long, I immediately bought him an apartment in the neighborhood near him. But why did he treat me like this? I kept talking as if he were my target for venting my love-struck behavior over the past year and more. Nathan just sat quietly on the bar counter, looking at me without saying a word, and letting me vent my emotions to my heart's content. Later, I pulled Nathan towards the dance hall. Come on. Accompany me to dance. I must have a great time tonight. Nathan frowned as he watched me being so drunk that I could hardly walk steadily. Lizzie, it's time to go back. I won't go back. I won't go back. You let me go. Nathan didn't let me go crazy too much. He picked me up and threw me into his car. He wanted to send me back to the hotel. As soon as I saw the hotel, I thought of that scumbag. I grabbed his car door and refused to get out no matter what. Nathan looked at me being extremely drunk and was somewhat helpless. Then I'll send you back to Uncle Lin. As soon as I heard that he was going to send me home, I immediately put my hands in my pockets, showing strong reluctance. Finally, Nathan took me back to his home. Finally home. Hey, what are you doing? That's not a bed. That's a doghouse. Nathan quickly pulled me back to avoid me getting a bump on my head. I fell into his arms. Looking up, I saw his constantly enlarging facial features in front of me. I couldn't help being stunned. You are so good-looking. With courage from alcohol, I actually, as if by some strange impulse, stood on tiptoe, held his face, and kissed him on the lips. Nathan was stunned for a moment by my sudden action. He straightened me up. Lizzie, do you know who I am? I shook my head and nodded wouldn't lie, pointing at him and saying, Nathan, you are Nathan. Seeing his reluctance, I muttered, it's just a kiss. Why are you so stingy? At most, I'll kiss you back. Nathan was obviously stunned by my answer. He had the intention of teasing me. Really? Aren't you afraid? So nagging. Then I kissed him again. Later, the next day, when I woke up, I found that both of us were naked. After that, we got married naturally. I said it. I was drunk that night. This can't be blamed on me. Nathan didn't say anything and just looked at me in silence. I took his silence as agreement and immediately set down rules. We are just in an alliance by marriage. After marriage, we are still free and can't interfere in each other's lives. The marriage lasts for 2 years. Then I took out the marriage agreement that I had prepared for a long time and handed it to him. I remember he took that agreement and looked at it for a long time. When I thought he wouldn't agree, I saw him sign his name very neatly. After marriage, Nathan and I were respectful to each other like guests. When he didn't look for me, I didn't look for him either. When he did look for me, I might not be available. But just like this, more than a year and a half passed peacefully. When there was still 1 month left before the end of the divorce agreement, my family went bankrupt and was under great debt pressure. Grandpa also passed away as his condition deteriorated during this huge change. I, who grew up with a silver spoon in my mouth, had my self-esteem crushed under the great changes in my family. I chose to sign the divorce agreement with him a month before the end of the divorce agreement. 6 soon. I drove the car to the entrance of the villa, and my thoughts were pulled back. I took out my small electric bike from the trunk and was about to escape. Lizzie, how long are you going to pretend not to know me? Nathan's voice suddenly rang out behind me. I stood stiffly on the spot. 1 second. 2 seconds. Nathan came forward and grabbed me, his eyes a little red. This was the first time I had seen loneliness and helplessness appear in his eyes. I lowered my head and tried my best not to let my emotions explode. Mr. Nee. Is there anything else? Lizzie. He was a little angry and said word by word. I was stunned and looked up at him. Nathan looked at me calmly for a long time. You just left like this just because the wedding date is up? Otherwise? We agreed not to disturb each other. Nathan's words were like a punch on cotton. Not disturb each other? He repeated my words. He went back to the car on his own and took out an A4 paper from the car. Lizzie. If I remember correctly, you should have studied law, right? You should have signed the divorce agreement with me a month in advance, right? I stared at him in a daze. So what did he mean by this? Make up for it. The man said it as a matter of course. Make up for it. I met his gaze. Even so. A year has passed now. Just make up for 1 month. Isn't it okay? You won't lose anything. Will you? I just think he is being unreasonable. It's not necessary. Moreover, you are already married. Before I finished speaking, his friend came out. Chen. What are you talking about? Why haven't you come in yet after such a long time? Only then did he notice me. Lizzie? So the designated driver just now was you. No wonder I thought it looked so familiar just now. I stood awkwardly on the spot. It's been a year since we last saw each other. So you're back in Hang House. No wonder Chen has been looking for you for a long time. Looking for me? I couldn't believe it. Isn't he already married? Regardless of whether you were married or divorced to Chen before. We have known each other anyway. Why don't you come in and have a late-night snack together? I looked at him and then at Nathan, and said with a smile. No need. I have to go back and see my child. Goodbye. As soon as I finished speaking, Nathan was stunned on the spot. 7. I'm not lying. I have a 1-year-old daughter. Because the family debts are pressing hard, I entrust my daughter to my best friend to take care of during the day. Since it's far away, I rest in the company dormitory during lunch break and go back to take care of her at night. Seeing that I didn't come back until 1 o'clock in the morning, my best friend was distressed. Why did you come back so late today? I didn't answer her words but looked into the room. Xiang is already asleep. Don't worry. With me taking care of her, this child is very obedient. My best friend poured me a glass of water and handed it over. I took a sip. I saw Nathan today. What? Did he say anything? I shook my head. He's married. To Vivian. Delivering takeout and being a designated driver are just my part-time jobs. From Monday to Friday. I still have to go to work during the day. On Monday, a client came to the company. Colleagues were gossiping and being infatuated. I didn't expect it to be General Manager Nee. Oh my God. I've only seen him on TV. I didn't expect to have the honor to see him in person today. Yes. He looks even better in real life than on TV. My eyelid twitched. The general manager Nee they mentioned couldn't be. When the boss's office door opened and they came out, it confirmed my guess. General Manager Nee. Then regarding this cooperation, we have settled it like this. I'll ask my assistant to see you off. Saying that, the boss looked at me. At this time, Nathan noticed me behind him. Why are you here? At work. The boss saw me answering him and could tell that we knew each other. Shaolin. So you know General Manager Nee. I considered for a moment and replied. I've met a few times. Met a few times? Nathan didn't seem to like my answer very much and repeated what I said in a flat tone. Does he still want others to know about our relationship? Nathan looked at me and said to my leader. Manager Liu. Since she is your assistant, then let her handle the docking of this project with our company. The boss immediately agreed and didn't even give me a chance to refuse. I nodded reluctantly. After seeing him leave, the boss looked at me again and seemed to like me much more. Shaolin. General Manager Ni is a big client of our company. For the docking of the company's Western District project in the future, you should spend more time. I believe you can complete it very well. After this project is done well, I will give you an additional 2 percentage points of commission on the original basis. As soon as money was mentioned, I was immediately full of energy. In the following days, people from Nathan's company often called me over to talk about things for no reason. Sometimes I even forgot that I wasn't their employee. After docking the data on the project, I picked up my bag on time and was ready to leave work. Where are you going? I suppressed the urge to get angry and said patiently. General Manager Ni. I have checked the project date many times and there is no problem. Also, I have connected with the factory. We just need to wait for their materials to be out of the warehouse. As soon as that happens, my workers will start working immediately, accompanying me to have a meal tonight. General Manager Ni. This seems to be outside my job scope. I still have other things to do. What things? I am going to be a designated driver. Nathan looked at me incredulously. From 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. now. I have been working for a full 9 hours. And now I still have to be a designated driver. Isn't this pushing myself too hard? I was already exhausted after working half a day before. In the afternoon, I wanted to go back and lie down. But now I have to go out and be a designated driver. Seeing that he had nothing more to say to me, I turned around and was about to leave. Don't you want to be my designated driver when I have one right here? Do you have to look for one outside? He didn't give me a chance to refute, and directly threw the car key to me. There is a dinner with ex-Sishi group later. You drive me there. Then after I finish eating, you drive me back to my residence. Seeing me standing there motionless for a long time, he raised his phone and said to me, Open the WeChat payment code. I opened the WeChat payment code. Soon I received a text message that he transferred 1,000 yuan to me. This money is enough for me to work as a designated driver for several days. I can't refuse it at all. It started to rain outside. I drove the car very steadily. Nathan was obviously a bit surprised. When we got married, he asked me to drive and pick him up. I was extremely reluctant and said I was not familiar with driving. Now, due to life's pressures, I have overcome my fears. When the car was halfway there, my best friend's call came. Lizzie, where are you? Xiang is sick. I have sent her to the hospital now. Come over quickly. Okay. I'll go there right away. I was worried and tears couldn't stop flowing. The child was premature and has endured a lot of hardships while running around with me day and night. General Manager Ni. I can't doctor you to the restaurant. Well, I'll find another designated driver for you. I have an urgent matter now. Don't worry. Just drive my car there directly. The child is more important. Without thinking too much, I immediately turned the steering wheel and drove to the hospital. When I arrived at the hospital, my best friend Queenie was standing outside the examination room, pacing back and forth anxiously. A king. How is Xiang? What did the doctor say? Queenie saw me, and quickly came over. She has been in for an examination for more than 10 minutes. She should come out soon. It's all my fault. I shouldn't have gone out. Xiang said at lunch that she didn't have much appetite. I thought she was joking with me. It's all my fault for not taking good care of her. It's okay. It's not your fault. If it weren't for you taking care of her for me during this time, I wouldn't know what to do. Tears couldn't stop flowing down my face. Don't worry. The child will be fine. Nathan beside me comforted me. Only then did Queenie notice that I came with Nathan. After half an hour, the door of the examination room opened. The doctor came out and roughly explained the situation. After hearing that the problem was not very serious, I breathed a sigh of relief. Where is the child's father? Why is he so busy that he has no time to see the child? I was a bit embarrassed and stood there stunned. I simply said a few words, saying that the child's father was busy abroad. The doctor just looked at me sympathetically. I didn't say anything. The child's condition is stable, but you still need to pay attention to her condition. After all, premature children will have a relatively weaker physical constitution. Okay. Thank you, doctor. 9. During the time when the child was transferred to the general ward, Nathan went to the balcony to answer a phone call. My best friend Queenie looked at me worriedly. Lizzie, why did you bring Nathan here? What if he saw Xiang and recognized that she is his daughter? At that time, I didn't think much and was only worried about the child. After she said that, I started to worry. Probably not. In fact, later on, I was also not very confident. Why not? If the Ni family knew that their granddaughter was living outside, they would definitely try their best to take her back. I think you should have a plan. My best friend's worry is not without reason. Xiang is my only relative in this world. I won't allow anyone to take her away. I don't know much about Vivian, but it will always be more reassuring for the child to be taken care of by her own mother. After a while, Nathan came back after finishing the call. He looked at the little girl on the hospital bed for a long time. She had a somewhat pale face but delicate and three-dimensional features. Is Xiang's father really abroad? I interrupted him and subconsciously blocked his sight. He is abroad. He will come back in a few days. Don't worry. Nathan nodded. His eyes were fixed on me, hoping to see something on my face. General Manager Ni. It's getting late. Thank you today. Why don't you go back first? Thank you for your trouble today. I gave him an order to leave. Nathan didn't insist on staying. He nodded, comforted me a few words and left. After that day, Nathan seemed to be very concerned about my daughter. From time to time, he would ask a few questions and occasionally visit her in the hospital. It seems that it is the magic of family affection. Xiang liked him at first sight. The little doll opened her round big eyes and had an innocent look on her face. Uncle? You are so handsome. It would be great if you were my dad. Honey, you are so sweet talking. The hand that I was holding a toy paused. Xiang, don't joke with Uncle. Dad will come back to see you in a few days. You should eat obediently. As soon as the little girl heard that her dad would come back to see her, she was so happy that she danced and ate her meal in big mouthfuls obediently. In the middle, Nathan answered a phone call and went out. After coaxing her to sleep, I then left the ward quietly. I thought Nathan had already left. But unexpectedly, he was standing outside the door as if waiting for me. Let's talk outside. He asked me. When is Xiang's birthday? I'll buy her a gift. I realized that he might have suspected something and said directly. Don't guess. Xiang is not your child. Her birthday is August 15th. Obviously. After hearing my answer, Nathan was a little disappointed. He seemed to have let it go and said with a smile. That's okay. A stepfather is also a father. I think the man in front of me seems a bit crazy. Nathan, we have already divorced. I can't get back together with you. Give up. I have my own family. He sneered. What's so good about this man? He can't help you much. You have to work 3 jobs a day while he is having a good time abroad? He doesn't even care about his child? So what? Although I am not as good as General Manager Ni, who lives a life of having everything done for him without lifting a finger. But life is my own. I live a very fulfilling life. That's enough. I was a little angry. Was he still thinking about me or humiliating me? I couldn't figure it out. Clearly, 2 years of marriage had passed, and we had agreed not to interfere with each other. My eyes unconsciously became moist. Nathan panicked. He was at a loss and hurriedly wiped the corners of my eyes. Sorry. I didn't mean that. I brushed his hand away and sneered. Then what do you mean? My life doesn't need your interference. In the workplace, you are only my partner. But in life, you have no right to control me. Nathan looked at me deeply as if trying to see something through the bottom of my eyes. Lizzie, have you never liked me even a little bit in the 2 years of marriage? I raised my head and looked directly at him. Never. I was only in an arranged marriage with you. Otherwise, I wouldn't have signed a marriage agreement with you. You are lying. Nathan's eyes were very deep. He continued. You said you have no feelings for me at all. But why do you always keep a photo of me and you on your keychain? This photo has been hanging on my keychain for a long time. It was our first photo together. As time passed, the plastic around the photo had turned yellowish. After Nathan and I got married, he was very busy and traveled back and forth between home and abroad every day. That day was Grandpa's birthday. He suggested that our whole family go to the zoo for a visit and specially asked Nathan, who was working abroad, to set aside time for that day. I thought he wouldn't come that day. When we were about to go out, Nathan came back and was still holding a gift for me. It was impossible not to be touched. This man was even more considerate than I had imagined. Even though we didn't see each other often, every time he came back, he would bring me different gifts, and would also take the initiative to share with me the interesting things that happened abroad. At that time, I would reply casually. Sometimes when I got tired of it, I would ask him. I said, Nathan, I also have my own things to do. I don't want to listen to so much nonsense from you every day. Nathan seemed to have listened. He never shared his things with me again. Later, he seemed to become even busier. Later, as if not caring about what I said to him that day, he said gently to me, the few chefs from Hang House who came to our house should be good, right? Do the meals suit your taste? Nathan's mother is also from Hang House. At first, I happily thought that I had made a profit. I could enjoy the blessing of Nathan's mother and have a few bites of authentic Hang House cuisine. That day, he rushed home in a hurry. I complained that he never cared about his family and only came back when Grandpa called him back in person. Or maybe he just wanted to avoid me. His arranged marriage partner. That photo was taken when I was lining up to buy ice cream. I don't know who pushed me forward. The ice cream that I had just taken a bite stuck to my cheek. Nathan quickly took a tissue and came over to wipe it for me. This scene was just captured by a photographer who was squatting on the side waiting for customers to take pictures. Even now, when I think of it occasionally, in those 2 years, except for not coming home often, Nathan fulfilled his responsibilities as a husband in every way. I also gradually began to accept him. If my family hadn't gone bankrupt, we would indeed be a perfect match. But after my family went bankrupt, there were more and more doubts about me from the outside world. I began to realize that maybe I didn't deserve to be with him. Later, when the news about him and Vivian broke out, I then gradually made up my mind to leave him. 10. A photo doesn't mean anything. Saying that, I took out the old photo from the keychain and threw it away. Lizzie, Nathan didn't expect me to be so cruel. Looking at that commemorative photo being thrown away by me, he looked at me with red eyes. Miss Lynn, your heart is really made of stone. No matter how hard I try, I can't warm it up. In 2 years, you said divorce and left without a word. Yes, you and I are just in an arranged marriage. What true feelings are we talking about? I pointed at him and said, so, General Manager Nee, don't disturb my life anymore. Saying that, my emotions suddenly got out of control and tears kept flowing down. Nathan knew that his words had hurt me and quickly apologized. Don't cry. I shouldn't have said that. I apologize to you. I mean, you deserve better. As long as you are willing, we can start over. I was crying so hard that I could barely catch my breath. What? Nathan took me into his arms. Lizzie, I know you are strong-willed and unwilling to admit defeat. You are even more unwilling to compromise or yield to life. But I said that the Nee family will always be your home. I will find a way to solve the Lin family's debt for you. You can completely trust me. Suddenly thinking of Vivian, I pushed him away. I don't want it anymore. Mr. Nee, you are already married. Please don't make such jokes. Married? Who told you I'm married? Nathan felt somewhat baffled. He approached me step by step. I only felt that Nathan was a bit unclear about his position. He wasn't like this before. When I was cornered by him, and thought he was going to do something, Howard suddenly appeared. What are you doing? Howard pushed Nathan away, and tried to pull me. But I refused. In the past year, he has been constantly pestering me and apologizing to me. When Nathan saw Howard appear, he was also stunned for a moment, and his expression cooled down a bit. You have no right to speak here. Nor do you have the right to speak. Nathan, you and Lizzie got divorced a year ago. After saying that, Howard turned to look at me. How are you, Lizzie? Are you really getting back together with him? Nathan asked me with red eyes. You don't need to mind my business. After saying that, I directly turned and left. Howard's appearance seemed to successfully make Nathan think that I had indeed gotten back together with him. During that time, he no longer called me to his place under the pretext of the Western District project. I rarely saw him again. My boss, who had never liked me in the first place, saw that Nathan had lost interest in me and became even more critical of me. Lizzie, can't you finish this amount of work? Is it so difficult? If you can't do it, tell me as soon as possible. That day, the boss took a pile of documents and almost threw them in my face. In the past, at the Lin family, I would have thrown them back without hesitation. With this little salary, do you expect this young lady to work like a slave for you? But now I can't. Okay, boss. I'll work overtime tonight and handle all of these. After I finished my work, it started to rain. Mr. Nee, it seems to be Miss Lin. Should we give her a ride? When Nathan's car drove up to me, I was stunned for a moment. I was about to refuse, but the man had already got out of the car with an umbrella. Don't always be so stubborn. Look at your phone. Is there still a taxi available at this time? When I picked up my phone, I only then noticed that my phone was out of power. I had to get in his car. As soon as I got in the car, Nathan threw a dry owl at me. Thank you. What's wrong with your hand? Nathan's gaze fell on my swollen wrist. Only then did I notice that when I was busy with work earlier, I accidentally bumped into a water cup filled with hot water. At first, I didn't pay attention. Only now did I realize that my skin had become swollen. It's nothing. It doesn't matter. But Nathan was obviously angry. Miss Lin, didn't you used to love beauty very much? Why don't you even care about being scalded now? Yes. Before I took very good care of my skin. If I got a scratch or a bump, I would keep shouting. For even a small injury, I would call a doctor. When Nathan saw it, he would mutter. But then he still called a family doctor for me. After saying that, Nathan directly asked the driver to drive the car to the hospital. I stood at the hospital entrance and refused to go in. Registering and buying medicine should cost a lot. Right? No need. I'll just go back and apply some medicine. Lizzie, how long are you going to be so stubborn? Look at what your hand has been scalded into. Doesn't she feel pain? Thinking of something, he said. Don't worry. You are considered my subordinate. I can still afford this little medical expense for you. After saying that, without allowing me to refuse, he took my other and injured hand and walked into the hospital. Only then did I notice that my originally fair and delicate palm-like water had now become extremely rough. What on earth have I gone through in this year? The doctor carefully applied medicine to me, and secretly rejoiced. Fortunately, you were sent here in time. Otherwise, these hands might be scarred. Miss, that man just now is your husband, right? He's so handsome. Judging from how worried he was about you just now. He must love you very much on ordinary days. Right? The female doctors started gossiping. No. Before I could finish speaking, Nathan came in holding ointment. I've already paid the medical expense. And I've also brought these ointments for you. Apply them once in the morning, noon, and evening. In the end, the doctor kept praising me with a smile and saying that I had married a good husband. She also urged us to be affectionate. Sitting in the car, we were silent all the way. But when I saw that the road was getting more and more unfamiliar, I asked him, "Didn't you say you would take me to the hospital where Xiang is?" Nathan looked at me and then at my hand. "In your current state, do you think that when you go to Xiang, she won't be worried?" I looked at the thick bandage wrapped around my left wrist and couldn't refute. 17 Nathan took me to his villa. I stood at the entrance and refused to go in no matter what. This is not good for Vivian. Saying that, I was about to leave. Nathan said, "You still have time to worry about others. First, it's already 1 o'clock in the morning. Second, your phone is out of power now. Do you still want to leave the villa area on foot? And also, Lizzie, do you think my house looks like someone has lived here?" I was stunned and subconsciously asked, "Didn't you live together?" Nathan found it somewhat amusing. "She lives at home. How would she have time to come to my place?" When Nathan saw that my expression was off, he instantly understood that I might have misunderstood his relationship with Vivian. Subsequently, Nathan made a phone call. Vivian's voice rang out from the other end. "I say, brother, why are you calling me in the middle of the night when you're not sleeping? You're disturbing my sleep." "Brother?" I was shocked. At this moment, Nathan was sure that I had really misunderstood his relationship with Vivian and continued to speak to the person on the other end. "You silly girl. What's our relationship?" On the other end of the phone, it was as if she had heard something asked by a total idiot. "Brother, are you crazy? What's our relationship? You're asking me? When you find your sister-in-law, come back quickly. Grandpa said he misses you guys. He told you to bring your sister-in-law home quickly. I can't hold it off any longer and it's about to be exposed." After Nathan hung up the phone, my entire nerve was constantly digesting this phone call between the two of them. He looked at me, fearing that I didn't understand clearly, and further explained, "Vivian is my long-lost biological sister. She was abducted abroad when she was 3 years old. After one of her dramas became extremely popular last year, my parents thought Vivian might be their long-lost daughter. Later, they asked me to pick her up at the hotel where she was staying. Later, after investigation, this was confirmed. Last year? Hotel. Isn't it the incident where paparazzi took pictures of him and Vivian entering and leaving the hotel together? I didn't lie to you." Nathan was afraid that I still didn't believe him. So he also showed me the DNA test report document made back then. When I looked at the DNA test analysis result on the photo and confirmed that Nathan's parents were Vivian's biological parents, I was only then 100% sure that they were indeed biological siblings. "Then why have you never told me?" He spoke in a deep voice. "I did tell you. But on that day you wanted to divorce me and also said that you had gotten back together with Howard. At that time, I forgot to share this good news with you." Okay. It seems that this is indeed the case. On that day, I thought he had really cheated on me with Vivian. Coupled with the bankruptcy of the Lin family, I didn't even confirm with him whether this matter was true or not before convicting him. And, Lizzie, the man suddenly approached me, pressed me against the wall at the entrance, put his hand on it, and surrounded me, giving off a strong sense of oppression. My heart was racing wildly and I couldn't move. "What? Today? In the past few days I've investigated. You haven't gotten back together with Howard at all, right? It's him who keeps pestering you. And," he paused and took out a paternity test report from his pocket. "How long are you going to hide the fact that Xiang is my biological daughter? And you even lied to me that you're already married? Your husband is abroad and I've been in the country all this time. How come I don't know that I've already flown abroad? And I'm even regarded as an irresponsible husband? I looked at this paternity test report in disbelief. You investigated? No wonder these days he hasn't asked me to take over the Western District project. It turns out he was investigating things. Well, if I hadn't investigated, I wouldn't have known how hard you've been in this past year, raising Xiang alone. I'm sorry. If I had put aside my pride back then, tried to you, explained to you, told you that I like you, and that I can't live without you, maybe you wouldn't be so tired. I'm sorry. His palm gently stroked down along my hairline, and his finger stopped at the corner of my eye. His eyes were very red. It was self-blame, the joy of regaining what was lost, and even more endless guilt towards me. Lizzie, can you stop being so stubborn? Then that day in the car, when your friend asked if you had developed feelings for me, but your answer was, not really. Nathan pinched my cheek a little angrily. You can pretend not to know me. Say divorce and divorce me. Dump me and leave. I've been looking for you for a year. You seem to be deliberately hiding from me. Then can't I say something angry? I pursed my lips. I really can't refute this. I'm sorry. But I really thought you got married to Vivian. That's why. Nathan didn't wait for me to finish speaking the rest of the words. He lifted my chin with one hand and kissed me. 12 extra male leads perspective. The first time I saw Lizzie was on the day I went to the Lin family to propose marriage. On that day, she was wearing a pure white dress, and was secretly planning to run away from home, from the backyard of the Lin family. Well, it was said to be to escape marriage. Escape marrying me. And I happened to bump into her when I came out to get some fresh air. I was really a little angry. At that time, there was a small flower garden between us. She was tiptoeing and moving a ladder, preparing to climb over the wall and escape. When I saw her standing on a step and almost losing her balance, I just wanted to go over. But this girl actually quickly turned the ladder and changed direction. For the first time, I saw that a woman who looked so delicate could have such skills. It was really an eye-opener. After straightening the ladder, she patted her chest in fright, and took deep breaths. Her delicate face instantly flushed with fright. She was still muttering, "Thank goodness. Thank goodness. It's stabilized." I was so scared. When she was about to climb over the wall, coincidentally, she was discovered by the housekeeper at home. When she was discovered, at first she was still very guilty. "Uncle, you don't tell my dad. Can you just pretend you didn't see me today? You've watched me grow up. You don't want me to marry a stranger either. Do you? I don't want to just graduate. Get married after graduating? I still have a lot of youth. Moreover, that Nathan is too old. He is a full 5 years older than me. What if he bullies me after we get married?" Woo woo. Hearing these words, I subconsciously took out my phone, opened the photo album, and looked at my face. I became a bit unconfident. Do I really look so old? But many people say that I am very handsome and young. The little girl lope and her big eyes wide. Her eyelashes fluttered as she looked at Uncle Yu and acted coquette the sly. She even squeezed out tears. But obviously Uncle Yu wasn't swayed by this. Later, when the little girl saw that the other party wouldn't be softened, she came up with a tough approach. With her hands in her pockets, and looking like a young lady, she threatened by relying on others' power. "Uncle Yu, I respect you as an elder. I usually respect you very much. But today I must go out this door. Don't stop me. Otherwise, don't blame me for telling my dad to deduct your salary." After saying that, the little girl went down the wooden ladder despite Uncle Yu's obstruction. But later, she was still caught red-handed by her father, and was brought back. So that later when she saw me, her attitude was very bad and she ignored me. At that time, I just thought this little girl was very individualistic. She is a princess in the ivory tower. Sincere and pure. After the meal, Dad Lin told her to take me for a walk in the back garden of her house. At that time, the moonlight was very bright. pouring down on her delicate face and hazing her cheeks. But her pair of eyes were still so bright, continuously attracting me. She didn't accept an arranged marriage. I tell you, Nathan, I don't like you. I will not marry you. Moreover, I have a boyfriend. I want to marry him. She is 168 cm tall, and I am 188 cm tall. I am a full head taller than her. She chose a step and stood on it to boost her, or so that the height difference between the two of us wouldn't be so great. When she said this sentence, actually I was very uncomfortable inside. But my strong self-esteem forced me not to lower my head. Coincidentally, Miss Lynn, if Grandpa hadn't said that we had an arranged marriage since childhood, I wouldn't marry you either. Then I looked at her with disgust and sized her up thoroughly. Moreover, your figure is not my type. My words successfully aroused the little girl's defiance. She glared at me angrily. You look down on me? I look down on you too. You jerk. After saying that, she angrily stomped her foot and left. Later, our marriage was cancelled by the little girl using the tactics of crying, making a scene, and threatening suicide, persuading both families. I know that a forced union won't be sweet. Later, I gradually stopped paying attention to her. But later, on the way to send a client back to the hotel, I ran into her boyfriend Howard. He was accompanied by two beautiful women on either side and entered the hotel. I took a photo on an impulse and sent it to my assistant. I asked them to investigate this Howard. When I learned that he was cheating on Lizzie with many people, I couldn't swallow this anger. I felt that the little girl shouldn't be kept in the dark by a scumbag. So I decided to start looking for more evidence. When I was afraid that Lizzie wouldn't believe me, Howard actually took his mistress and checked into the hotel where Lizzie was staying that night and was still encountered by me. After that, I took her to see the true face of this scumbag. Although the little girl is sometimes a bit love-struck in terms of relationships, I didn't expect her to be so decisive. She broke up with Howard and even kicked him a few times out of anger. I seemed to be more and more interested in her. Perhaps the eldest lady of the Lynn family should have this personality, daring to love and hate. That day, the little girl drank a lot. When I was at a loss and didn't know how to comfort someone who was lovelorn, the little girl was even more clear-sighted than I imagined. She confided a lot to me, and I listened very carefully. Later that night, I couldn't help kissing her. After that, some indescribable things happened, and we got married naturally. When she brought the marriage agreement, I really wanted to impulsively tear those few pieces of paper to shreds. But I didn't dare to show my emotions in front of her. I held that agreement and looked at it for a long time. In the end, I signed it as she wished. Because I believe that in 2 years, I will definitely be able to warm her heart. She said she didn't like me bothering her. So I have been controlling myself from sending her so many messages. So I can only bury myself in work. I'm afraid that one day, she will find me annoying and want a divorce. I observed that the little girl was very happy every time she received a gift. So every time I go home, I will carefully select gifts for her. My little princess should be wholeheartedly protected.